The Price of Ukathwala. Once upon a time in a small village of Mabula in Limpopo there lived a young girl Damaris with her brother and parents. Her life had been carved out of hardship. Born into a poor family, she had known hunger more intimately than warmth. Damaris grew up to be a young beautiful woman with dreams and hopes to succeed, but her dreams were often swallowed by the darkness of poverty. Her father was a farmer whose crops rarely survived, and her mother worked endlessly just to keep a roof over their heads. Though they were poor, Damaris' family was a happy and loving family. But Damaris was different. She never saw the significance of a happy family, as she hated poverty with a fierce of fire. While others accepted their fate, she longed for silk dresses, golden jewelry, and a life far removed from dirt floors and empty plates. Their small shack had a leaking roof patched with old sacks and rusted zinc. When it rained, they huddled in a corner hoping the water wouldn't ruin the few belongings they had. Her father's land for farming was tired due to lack of accurate fertilizers to improve his land. Seasons came and went, yet the crops barely grew. He would return home with blisters hands and sunburned skin, carrying a few tomatoes and maize too small to sell. Her mother tried to assist by selling firewood and fat cooks at the village market, but most days she came back with more tears than coins. Food was never enough. They often had only one meal a day, sometimes a watery bowl of soup or thin cornmeal without stew. Damaris would go to bed hungry, her stomach growling louder than the forest insect outside. Her and his brother wore uniforms so faded and patched that looked like rags. Neighbors pitied them but could only help much, for many in the village were also poor. Damaris watched her parents grew thinner and more tired within each passing year, their dreams buried beneath survival. Her mother's once bright eyes became dull, her father's laughter faded into silence. All this burned in Damaris' heart, not just the suffering but the shame of being helpless. That shame festered into anger, and anger became desperation, and that desperation was what led her into dating multiple partners, hoping to survive and improve her parents' life. Damaris grew older to a beauty that shined like gold in the mud. Even in rags her face turned heads. Men from the village and beyond began to notice her, and she rapidly learned that her looks were a kind of currency and a way out of poverty. With her family starving and no hope in sight, Damaris started accepting the attention of men. Not for love but for survival. A plate of rice here, some small money there. One man gave her a bag of maize meal after a night with her. Another paid her school fees for a term, but only after using her body. Each man took something from her and left her emptier than before. She did not enjoy this life. Every time she lay down with one of them, a part of her soul shrank. But hunger is a cruel teacher. It makes morals feel like luxury. She hated herself for it, but what choice did she have when her brother and parents was crying from hunger and her mother's eyes were sunken with sorrow? Still, no matter how many men she entertained, the money was never enough. It came fast. In a secret she would sometimes cry after they left, scrubbing herself raw, wishing she was born into another life, one where beauty did not have to be traded for survival, where a young girl did not have to choose between dignity and dinner. It was during one of those nights of silent weeping that the whisper of the money ritual first reached her ears, and though it sounded like evil, it also sounded like escape. That's all Damaris wanted, an escape from the man, from the shame, from the hunger that haunted every breath. That night an evil old woman appeared in Damaris' dreams. This old woman whispered a forbidden secret to her of a ritual that could summon endless wealth. You must go to the sacred forest, the old woman said, and there you will meet Okoko, the money serpent. It will give you riches, but it must be fed a chicken every month. Desperation has no time for warnings. That night Damaris went into the forest and called upon the serpent. It slithered out from the shadows, massive with eyes that burned like coals. In exchange for her loyalty and silence, it offered her a gift, a bag that never ran out of money. Sardo Idumse Hiltajuderic life changed overnight. Damaris built a mansion for her family, dressed in the finest silks, and was soon the envy of all. But she never spoke of the serpent. She fed it small offerings at first, birds, goats, even strangers shed lure under guise of charity. After Damaris made her dark pact with the serpent Okoro, wealth flowed into her like a broken dam. She became unrecognizable overnight. From a girl who once begged for bread, she became a slay queen who ruled the streets and social media. Her skin glowed like gold, her hair was always freshly done, and her wardrobe was a mix of designer brands Gucci, Versace, Dior, all real and all imported. She lived in a lavish apartment in the city, drove brand new Benz, and her face on every flyer for elite parties. Everyone wanted to be like her, but no one knew the price she had paid. She became a sensation on Instagram and Snapchat. Pouting, posing, flaunting bundles of cash, champagne bottles, and beach vacations. Every post screamed soft life and girls idolized her. Men flocked to her, offering gifts, cars, trips abroad, thinking she was just lucky or connected. But Okoro the serpent was always watching. Damaris had to feed him constantly. She made human sacrifices in secret, boyfriends who got too close, girls who got too envious. She became cold, using people like disposable cups. Each time she offered someone, her bank account grew fatter. Her beauty became more enchanting, her presence more powerful. But there were nights, dark, lonely nights, when the serpent demanded more. Not just blood, but her body. Okoro would slither into her bed in his spiritual form, violating her sleep and peace. She would scream in the silence of her penthouse, unable to breathe, her soul trapped in invisible chains. No one could hear. No one could help. Outside she was Damaris, the badass slay queen. Inside her she was a prisoner. She could not sleep without nightmares. She couldn't love, for every man who touched her either went mad or disappeared. Her heart became hollow and her soul felt like it was dying little by little. Even her reflection began to frighten her. Her beauty became unnatural, too perfect, too lifeless. Mirrors started cracking on their own. Shadows moved when she did not, and her laughter, it no longer sounded human. Then came the turning point. One night she woke up in a pool of blood, her own. Okoro had marked her for the ultimate price. The serpent was no longer satisfied, he wanted everything. One night she woke up in a pool of blood, her own. One stormy night it demanded more. Your blood feeds me, but family's love weakens my hold. It hissed. Before she could protest, the serpent slithered into her home and devoured her family in a single night. Their screams echoed in her ears long after the silence returned. That night Damaris was left in her palace of sorrow, surrounded by gold that now smelled of blood. But her punishment was not yet complete. The serpent, having taken everything she loved, began to demand her body. Night after night it coiled around her, violating her peace and sanity. It would whisper in her ear, you wanted wealth, this is the price. Damaris, shattered and empty, could take no more. She remembered her grandmother's words about God, the one her mother used to pray to when hunger became too much. She dropped to her knees for the first time in years. She screamed out to God, not for money, not for fame, but for freedom. She tore her wigs, wiped off makeup, smashed her designer bags, and cried like the little girl she once was. God, please, I don't want this life anymore. It was not instant. The torment did not end overnight. But slowly the serpent grip loosened. With fasting, prayer, and deliverance, Damaris began to fight back. She deleted her social media, vanished from the public eye, and entered a church retreat. There she gave testimony, shocking everyone. The badass slay queen had once been a queen of demons. But now she was becoming whole again. A life built on blood may shine, but it cannot last. Only truth, faith, and repentance can free a soul sold to darkness.